The misunderstood genius. Among all the players in Blue Lock, few characters are as deceptively simple as Seishirō Nagi. At first glance, he appears almost painfully easy to define. He is the lazy prodigy, the genius who sleeps through life, the boy with impossible natural talent, the gamer who accidentally became an elite footballer, the effortlessly cool character whose every move appears elegant, detached, and almost inhuman. For many viewers and readers, this is where their understanding ends. Nagi is often reduced to an archetype, the gifted genius who simply needs motivation. But this interpretation misses the deeper psychological tragedy embedded within his character. Because Seishirō Nagi is not merely a talented athlete, he is a portrait of existential emptiness. He is a psychological case study in gifted child burnout. He is a character built around emotional numbness, motivational collapse, and identity diffusion. His story is not about learning how to play football, it is about learning how to desire. And for someone like Nagi, desire is the hardest skill to develop. Who is Seishirō Nagi? Surface identity versus internal reality. Seishirō Nagi is introduced as an absurd contradiction. He possesses extraordinary technical football ability despite having almost no experience. His ball control is supernatural. His spatial intuition is immediate. His adaptability is instinctive. And yet, he doesn't care, or at least that is how it appears. He avoids effort. He avoids planning. He avoids emotional investment. He avoids responsibility. He often describes everything as a pain. Training is a pain. Walking is a pain. Thinking is a pain. Trying is a pain. This repeated phrase is not simply comedic characterization. It is the language of emotional disengagement. Psychologically, Nagi exhibits classic symptoms of a motivation. A motivation is not laziness. This distinction is crucial. Laziness implies choice. A motivation implies psychological paralysis. A lazy person can act but chooses not to, and a motivated person struggles to generate meaningful internal drive. Nagi does not avoid effort because he enjoys idleness. He avoids effort because effort feels meaningless. This is a much darker psychological condition. The gifted child syndrome, the curse of natural talent. To understand Nagi, we must first understand one of psychology's most overlooked developmental traps, the gifted child syndrome. Gifted children often experience an unusual psychological trajectory. Because success comes easily, they rarely need to struggle. Because they rarely struggle, they never develop resilience. Because they never develop resilience, failure becomes psychologically catastrophic. This creates a dangerous identity structure. I am valuable because I am naturally good. Not, I am valuable because I can improve. This distinction separates a fixed mindset from a growth mindset. Carol Dweck, whose research on mindset transformed educational psychology, explains that gifted individuals often become trapped by fixed identity beliefs. If effort becomes necessary, they interpret it as evidence that they are no longer talented. Struggle becomes threatening. Failure becomes unbearable. Challenge becomes dangerous. Nagi embodies this perfectly. Effort as identity risk for Nagi. Effort is psychologically terrifying. Why? Because effort introduces uncertainty. If he tries and fails, then perhaps he was never truly exceptional. But if he never fully tries, he can preserve the illusion of genius. This is known as self-handicapping. Self-handicapping is a defensive strategy where individuals deliberately avoid full commitment so they can protect their self-esteem. The internal logic is, if I lose while not trying, the loss does not define me. But if I lose after trying my hardest, then I must confront my limitations. Nagi's laziness is not laziness, it is emotional armor. His indifference is not apathy, it is psychological protection. emotional flatness and existential numbness. Why Nagi feels empty. One of the most fascinating elements of Nagi's psychology is his emotional flatness. He rarely displays strong emotional reactions. He rarely shows excitement, rarely shows anger, rarely shows fear, rarely shows joy. This emotional neutrality can resemble depression, but it is more accurately described as existential numbness. Existential numbness occurs when life lacks sufficient emotional contrast. Nothing feels urgent, nothing feels deeply meaningful, nothing feels worth pursuing. For most people, emotional stimulation comes from challenge, but challenge only exists when something is difficult. For Nagi, almost nothing is difficult, and this is the true tragedy of genius. When the world offers no resistance, life loses texture. Without resistance, there is no growth. Without growth, there is no purpose. Without purpose, there is emptiness. The White Room symbolism. One of the most powerful symbolic motifs in episode Nagi is his room. It is often depicted as sterile, minimal, white, almost empty. This imagery matters. Psychologically, environments often symbolize internal mental states. Nagi's white room reflects internal blankness, a mind without emotional color, a consciousness deprived of meaning, a life waiting for something to interrupt the silence. This is why video games matter. This is why football matters. They provide stimulation. They inject contrast into emotional emptiness. They awaken dormant sensation. Nagi does not play because he loves competition. He plays because competition temporarily makes him feel alive. Reo Mikage as psychological dependency, Reo as external executive function. Nagi's relationship with Reo Mikage is often interpreted romantically or emotionally, but psychologically it is something even more significant. Reo functions as Nagi's external executive system. Executive function includes planning, goal setting, decision making, initiation, motivation, persistence. Reo handles all of these. Reo identifies Nagi's talent. Reo gives Nagi purpose. Reo creates the dream. Reo provides structure. Reo creates movement. Without Reo, Nagi likely never enters football at all. This means Nagi's motivation is externally regulated. Self-determination theory. According to self-determination theory developed by Edward Dacey and Richard Ryan, motivation exists on a continuum: external regulation, introjected regulation, identified regulation, integrated regulation, intrinsic motivation. Nagi begins at the lowest level. He plays because Reo wants him to, not because he wants to, not because he values football, not because football aligns with his identity. This creates dependency. He is not driving himself, he is being driven. Leaving Reo A search for autonomy. Why Nagi leaves. When Nagi chooses to leave Reo and join Yoichi Isagi, many interpret this as betrayal, but psychologically it is individuation. Individuation is the process of separating from external identity anchors. Nagi is unconsciously attempting to answer, "What do I want?" This is his first genuine act of autonomy, but there is a problem. He still does not know his own desire. He only recognizes Isagi's fire. He mistakes attraction to another person's purpose for personal purpose. This is common in identity diffusion. Individuals without stable internal identity often attach themselves to stronger identities. They borrow motivation. They borrow meaning. They borrow ambition. Nagi does not replace dependence with independence. He replaces one dependency with another. The miracle goal and psychological collapse. The 5-stage fake volley. Nagi's famous miracle goal is one of the most iconic moments in Blue Lock. Technically brilliant, emotionally explosive, visually unforgettable, but psychologically, it may be the worst thing that ever happened to him. Why? Because it prematurely fulfilled his motivational climax. Humans are designed to chase peaks, but when a peak arrives too soon, motivation can collapse. This phenomenon is known as goal satiation. Once the brain perceives the reward as achieved, dopamine drops, desire fades, momentum disappears. Nagi's mind interprets the miracle goal as, "I did it, I reached the top, the game is complete," but he had not built the internal structures necessary for sustained excellence. No discipline, no intrinsic love, no personal philosophy, no stable ego, only talent. Talent carried him upward, but talent alone cannot keep someone there. The fear of becoming ordinary genius and identity. Panic. After his success, Nagi begins to confront something terrifying. What if he cannot reproduce greatness? This is classic gifted child panic. When identity depends on exceptional performance, inconsistency feels like death. Ordinary mistakes feel catastrophic. Normal plateaus feel humiliating. Effort feels desperate. This explains his emotional instability after reaching his peak. For the first time, he wants to improve, but he does not know how, and that confusion creates psychological suffering. Seishirō Nagi is not merely a genius athlete, he is a young man trapped between talent and emptiness. He is someone who has mastered performance without mastering desire, someone who can achieve greatness without understanding purpose, someone who can win without knowing why victory matters. His greatest challenge is not football, it is constructing an identity, finding a reason to struggle, learning to desire beyond stimulation, learning to care beyond novelty, learning to live beyond talent. And this is what makes him tragic, because for most athletes, talent is the beginning. For Nagi, talent is the obstacle. Emotional detachment and the possibility of alexithymia. Why Nagi struggles to feel. One of the most overlooked aspects of Nagi's character is not his laziness, it is his emotional ambiguity. Nagi rarely explains what he feels, even when important things happen to him, even when he wins, even when he loses, even when relationships fracture, even when his identity begins to collapse. His emotional language remains strangely limited. This is annoying. This is a pain. That was fun. I'm curious. These are simple labels, surface-level reactions, but they rarely reveal deeper emotional processing. And psychologically, this raises an important question. Does Nagi struggle to identify his own emotions? Alexithymia, emotion without vocabulary. A useful psychological concept here is alexithymia. Alexithymia is not a disorder. It is a difficulty in identifying, understanding, and describing internal emotional states. People with alexithymic traits often struggle to name what they feel, focus more on external events than internal experience, appear emotionally flat or detached, confuse bodily sensations with emotions, have difficulty understanding emotional meaning. Nagi shows many of these tendencies. When he feels something powerful, frustration after losing, excitement during intense matches, confusion after separating from Reo Mikage, he rarely verbalizes it clearly. Instead, his reactions emerge physically. A widened eye, a pause, a subtle shift in breathing, a rare spark of agitation. It is as if emotion reaches him before language does. His body reacts, his mind lags behind. This is psychologically significant, because if someone cannot interpret their emotions, they cannot easily use those emotions to guide identity. Emotional delay and identity development. Most adolescents build identity by asking, what makes me happy? What hurts me? What matters to me? What do I fear? But Nagi cannot answer these questions easily, not because he lacks emotions, but because his emotional signals are weak and difficult to decode. This delays psychological maturation. He is emotionally underdeveloped, not in intelligence, but in emotional literacy. His internal world is dimly lit. He feels, but he cannot yet fully read what he feels. Boredom as a psychological condition. Nagi is not lazy. He is understimulated. One of the greatest misunderstandings about Nagi is the belief that he simply dislikes effort. But Nagi's true psychological state is closer to chronic understimulation. His nervous system appears unusually difficult to activate. Ordinary tasks do not excite him. Routine social interaction does not energize him. Predictable competition does not interest him. Most life experiences fail to cross his psychological activation threshold. This produces chronic boredom. But boredom is not merely annoyance. Boredom can become existential suffering. The neuroscience of boredom. Boredom is strongly tied to the brain's dopaminergic reward system. Dopamine is often misunderstood as the pleasure chemical. In reality, dopamine is more about anticipation, novelty, motivation, and reward seeking. People with high stimulation thresholds often need stronger novelty to trigger dopamine release. This may explain Nagi's psychology. His extraordinary natural ability means ordinary challenges produce little reward. Simple victories feel empty. Easy success feels meaningless. Predictable outcomes produce no excitement. His brain adapts upward. The stimulation required to feel engaged keeps increasing. This is why Nagi only truly awakens during intense moments. He needs psychological danger to feel alive. Gamer psychology and reward conditioning. Why video games matter. Before football, Nagi's primary source of stimulation is gaming. This is not incidental, it is psychologically revealing. Video games provide something reality often does not: immediate feedback. clear goals, rapid rewards, progress markers, manageable challenge. Games are designed to regulate dopamine efficiently. For someone like Nagi, this is ideal. Real life is slow. Games are fast. Real life is ambiguous. Games are structured. Real life lacks immediate meaning. Games constantly provide meaning. Gaming may have conditioned Nagi's reward system. Transfer of reward expectation to football. When Nagi begins football, the sport initially functions like a game. It provides new mechanics to master, instant feedback, surprising challenges, competitive stimulation, but eventually, football stops feeling like a novelty. And when novelty fades, motivation declines. This is the same psychological pattern seen in many gifted individuals. They are addicted to the beginning. They love rapid mastery. They love immediate progress, but they struggle with the long plateau that follows. The plateau feels dead, and this is where many prodigies collapse. Nagi risks becoming one of them. Why Isagi threatens him. The first true psychological threat. No one affects Nagi's psychology more profoundly than Yoichi Isagi, but Isagi does not threaten him physically. He threatens him existentially. Why? Because Isagi embodies everything Nagi lacks. Effort. Isagi works relentlessly. He thinks constantly. He evolves intentionally. He suffers productively. For Nagi, effort has always felt unnecessary, but Isagi proves something terrifying. Hard work can surpass genius. This destabilizes Nagi's self-concept. Purpose. Isagi knows what he wants. He has hunger, direction, meaning. His ego is active. Nagi's is dormant. Seeing Isagi forces Nagi to confront his emptiness. Self-created identity. Most importantly, Isagi builds himself. Nagi was discovered. Isagi constructs. Nagi inherits. Isagi chooses. Nagi drifts. Psychologically, this makes Isagi both inspiring and threatening. Nagi admires him, but also fears him, because Isagi exposes what Nagi might become, a talented shell without self-determination. Calm exterior, hidden anxiety. Why Nagi rarely panics. Nagi's calm demeanor often makes him appear emotionally invulnerable, but emotional stillness can mask anxiety. Some individuals cope with uncertainty through overactivity. Others cope through shutdown. Nagi appears to use emotional minimization. He reduces visible reaction to maintain internal stability. By staying detached, he protects himself from overwhelm. This is why he often sounds indifferent even when deeply affected. The fear beneath the calm. What is Nagi truly afraid of? Not losing, not pain, not embarrassment. He is afraid of meaninglessness. He is afraid that his talent might be all he has. He is afraid that if talent stops being enough, there will be nothing underneath. No identity, no purpose, no self. This fear explains his emotional hesitation. To commit fully would mean risking discovery. What if effort reveals emptiness? What if trying reveals limitation? What if awakening reveals that he does not know who he is? That is the terror beneath his calm. Awakening through pain. Why losing matters. One of the healthiest developments in Nagi's psychology is his experience of frustration. For most people, frustration is unpleasant. For Nagi, it is transformational. Frustration means he cares. Pain means something matters. Disappointment means desire exists. This is emotional awakening. His suffering is not regression. It is progress. For the first time, football is no longer just stimulation. It becomes personal, and that is psychologically revolutionary. Pain as proof of life. This is Nagi's paradox. He must suffer to feel alive. His boredom numbs him. His talent isolates him. But competition wounds him, and through that wound, emotion enters. Failure gives him access to parts of himself he could not previously reach. Ambition, fear, anger, longing, identity. This is why his struggles matter more than his victories. Seishirō Nagi's emotional world is not empty, it is underdeveloped. He is not incapable of passion, he is only beginning to feel it. His boredom is not simple laziness, it is the byproduct of a nervous system starved for meaningful challenge. His gaming habits reveal reward conditioning. His emotional detachment suggests difficulty interpreting internal states. His fascination with Isagi reflects both admiration and existential fear, and his calmness hides a deeper anxiety, the fear that beyond his talent there may be nothing, but perhaps that fear is necessary, because fear can awaken desire, pain can awaken identity, and discomfort can awaken life. For Nagi, suffering may be the first true proof that he exists. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe.